This is the Long War. I'm Rob Bear, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Hey, what's up?
I lost the video. I didn't know where to look there for a minute. I wanted to make sure Wyatt wasn't looking at me.
As
What
is,
video?
nothing new, right? So we're podcasting on the eve of the WCW, the World Championships, Golden Ticket, 40K event, and this is kind of like pretty exciting. Like honestly, right? Like I haven't gotten to go to a real 40K event yet because the one me and Wyatt were trying to go to Tampa got a
Hmm.
hurricane,
Hurricane,
hurricane, yeah,
canceled.
Good
and
old act of God.
that little act of God action. Yeah. Low, just
Still counts.
two hurricanes in the same month. So last time I was at a actual Warhammer GT, not like a games day, like a GT, it was 2004 Atlanta, man. So this is really exciting that
Oh,
that the scene is back, despite any differences of opinions I have with the company, with any type of management, any coordination uh, of said event. The pageantry's been on point, and the culmination of this golden ticket style play is happening this weekend. And I'm personally pretty excited about that. How about you guys?
I think it's gonna be pretty neat.
I think overall, we do bring light to situations that other folks don't talk about when it comes to Games Workshop. But overall as a company, as people, a lot of them are very talented and very passionate about what they do and help to enrich and engross the hobby for a lot of folks. And I think that's what's cool about this event. And this whole thing wouldn't even be possible. Let's talk about that for a second. If it wasn't for Frontline Gaming to begin with,
That's interesting and accurate.
selling the ITC to Games Workshop.
And also, as a history lesson to anybody just tuning in, we talked about 2004, Atlanta GT as my last action. Shortly thereafter, GW pulled out. It pulled
Yes.
out of the United States. Uh,
Years.
I mean, like this is like Kirby era,
Yeah.
and they vanished. And then what we were left with was a fanatical desire to play competitive 40K in
Hmm.
tail end of fourth, going into fifth. And so what we had was a bunch of motivated individuals across this country
Almost all at once.
all at once coming up with
Yeah.
ways to run tournaments. And fourth edition was a great time to start that in because fourth edition, we didn't really need terrain the way that the terrain rules work. But as we moved along, what I always say historically is you have a bunch of guys who historically won best general at all of our 40K events, but never best overall. And in those days, it's an important distinction because we played battle points, not win loss. And so we had weighted hobby scores. So those guys always felt that they should win. That's how I used to always talk about those guys because they didn't drop any games. Right.
Hmm.
And so those group, like no matter what negative opinion I ever had of those guys, as power gamers, as the old school term used to be, these were the motivated gamers who got together, got organized, started throwing events, started, figuring out how to do logistics. And then we had multiple regions and factions throughout this country for 10 years trying to make shit happen. But, and one of the crowning jewels of that whole endeavor was Frontline Gaming, was Reese and
Hmm.
Frankie partnership. Those two guys that were like legends in our scene for so long. And they really kind of, said, hey, we got to stop being so all over the place and we got to get a little bit more unified. And
Hmm.
they kind of saved 40K like three times, like for competitive play in the country. And then GW came back before they sold that shit. They came back to a market that was brilliant, right? Like they were like, we pulled out, fuck it, fuck competitive play, Kirby era. They came back and it's like, bro, you guys have like billion tournaments a day in America. What the fuck's going on? This market's we need to start actually caring about competitive play. Yeah, dude, we have single-handedly kept this community alive for a decade. If you want to look at just like any game, I mean, White always talk about like we always talk about Fallout 76. The PvPers were the only reason a community existed in that game. the beginning.
Yeah.
You want to look at a Discord, you want to look at a Facebook group. It's the guys who go out there every weekend and want to play. So they're the ones who are pushing the community, keeping it that tight, keeping it together. GW came back, said, "Fuck, we were sleeping on this. Let's make this official," and they did. And now here we are. Not even like that much time has passed since that moment, and now we have a golden ticket event this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
People had to go win events to get tickets to this all year. It's fucking amazing.
I think it's I think it's pretty cool overall, like to see this as, you know, the coming together of this worldwide season, I guess, so to speak, you know, that started in January, and the just the amount of people that'll be there, I think is cool. Now, obviously, something else that happens in this industry, in this hobby, regretfully, is there's a lot of egos, there's a lot of personalities out there, there's a lot of taking advantage of folks and things like that, and so there's a dark side to it, and I think, you know, we're a little too I know I can be jaded at times as to the behind the scenes and things like that, and it's it's tough to try to always focus on the positive and things. So I'm glad you you know, kind of let off the way you did there,
This is one of those
because
times. Like, don't
yeah,
forget, we dedicated a big portion of our life to Games Workshop. Like, so it's very easy to think that we're mad at them all the time. We hate them, this and that. But like at the end of the day, like, it's the greatest miniature making company in the world that makes the most prestigious board game in the world or tabletop game in the world. And it's great to see them acting that way, you know?
I do hate certain individuals at Games Workshop, and
Mhm.
I have good reason for that.
And as we've mentioned in the podcast, for every one of those, there's some guy's name that we don't even know who's fighting for
Yep,
us, you know?
exactly.
And so it's exciting, you know. So tonight we're going to talk about the big FAQ going into Worlds that a lot of these players are having to interact with. Right, they've been playing a certain way, you know, bar the balance updates and stuff like that, all the way up until this event FAQ. We're going to talk a little bit about the news with Rob. But before we get into any of that, this preamble aside, no podcast next week. Having said all that, let's roll into the Cave of Wonders and touch nothing but the lamp. And we're waiting for Wyatt to roll out to the
The
Cave of Wonders.
icon was not shown. I didn't know it was muted. Would you rather
Yes.
would you rather live in a country with no laws or live in a country where the punishment for breaking any law is death?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Famous.
Wait, so a country with no laws,
Yeah, absolutely no laws.
so anarchy basically,
Mhm.
and then a country that does have what kind of laws? Just
Just
doesn't matter, whatever they
normal
have,
normal laws.
normal
Like the
laws,
country we live in right now. Like right now, America. But any law I break,
like misdemeanor.
The punishment to breaking the law. Like,
so
period.
but like it's like
Hmm.
like America. It's not. We're not saying like they're not making new laws to make it even harder for us. It's just like
Yeah.
right now where I'm at region wise. If I break now, is it the same rules for getting caught? Right, I break a law.
Yes.
It's the same rules. Do I still have to go to? I can still go to court, or does a judge come
Yep.
up to, or does like Judge Dredd show up?
No. Like there's still, the court system and
Is it?
and it's
Sure.
like, I don't want to go way out into the weeds on like, oh, the judicial system, but like, okay, it's a hypothetical thing. We're in a fairy tale land. Assume that the court system works as it's intended, innocent until proven guilty, all that kind of shit.
But the only punishment available is death.
Yeah, if you're convicted, you die.
Okay. Now, okay,
Hmm.
okay, and I've done pretty good. Okay, I'd be dead by now if that was the case. So I wouldn't have made it to 41 years old. But I feel like I wouldn't have broken those laws I broke so brazenly. So there is something to be said. So I said so we're not so it's not like a nefarious backstory where they're trying deliberately to get us all killed. It's
Yeah.
like, don't break the law, you die. So we probably actually have a lot less crime.
That's what I was just thinking. It's kind of like the reverse of the purge.
Yeah. So they're not trying to go. Okay, so that's because the first time, as soon as you say that, I'm thinking like, oh, this is like a dystopian future where like jaywalking, judge shows up and shoots me in the street. Like, not like that. It's like the laws of the land I live in right now. I cross the street all the time and don't get caught. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, jaywalking equal death. But have you ever been arrested for jaywalking? But goes, Cass. We're not living in a world where suddenly
Mhm.
cops are out there trying to arrest people for jaywalking. You know what I'm saying? I got caught with weed like 50 times in my life, and the cop just threw it in the trash. Like, so like it's the same. What's
I ain't got time for
same cops, same exact experience you currently have with the law, is what Wyatt's saying. But
Mm.
if you get caught with something, you're dead. Like for example, here's something interesting, Rob. I remember all that tax stuff I had to do with like North Carolina,
Yeah.
and then I shut my stuff down with California, and it
Uh-huh.
turns out uh, I only resolved my like city tax. Turns out I accidentally forgot to pay my state taxes in 2022.
From California.
Yeah. And I was like, that's
Oh.
impossible. I always pay my taxes. Well, I went through my records and I see that I actually forgot to actually send the check. And I thought it was the same thing. So the person I was interacting with for this other thing told me, no, you're fine. Well, then I looked at my bank account the other day and it was levied.
Bleh.
Called them up, talked it out. Guy's like, yes, sometimes this happens. I was like, I can't refute this. So, like, obviously, I can't refute the levy. And he gave me some good advice. That was the conclusion. Gave him the money. I technically broke a law, but the resolution of
But
it had nothing to do with police, nothing to do with arrests. So, like, it's still that we're still operating under those protocols. I didn't die.
mhm.
Not like they didn't call the cops on me. They're just like, we got the money. We're good.
Well, that's all they wanted in the first place.
So, like, I think that I would do better in that. Like, because going to straight anarchy, like, I've made it, I think I can make it. Because the last time I actually got physically arrested, I didn't get arrested. I got pulled over, but my license was expired. He didn't even arrest me. He's just like, I could if I wanted to, but he didn't. And he's like, you need to show up at court this day with a driver's license. And I did. And I paid a fine. That same scenario, according to Wyatt, would play out that exact same way. I paid the fine because not every law you break is a court case. It's some of it's like the resolution is paying this fee, right?
Mm.
So the only time in my life I would have died was when I was 19. I got caught for shoplifting.
Oh yeah. They
Got
take you out for that for
got
sure.
arrested. Had to go to court. Had
Was it
to
for some
take
enzymes?
I take a plea and I had to do community service. In this new world, there's no community service. It's you're dead. So since 19 to 41, we've been good, and that's me not respecting the law. That's me not respecting the shit out of it. Me respecting it, I'm fine.
I think that community service is that you die in Wyatt's world.
Well,
Genie Planet.
Kara Quinn, he says you broke the law, you just paid the fine. Right, no, but he's saying it's like if it goes to court and I'm found guilty, I'm dying. That's the penalty.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you saying fines have been removed from the court systems now?
No, it's like if you're convicted of a crime.
Like if my crime was not paying my tags on
Okay,
time,
so
and they say now you can pay your tags.
So here's the logical conclusion of your scenario. If they said like, oh, okay, so you're being levied a fine, you have to pay us $500, and you said, "Fuck you, make me," and then they like put a blue warrant out on you, and then you had to appear before the court, and the judge
Now I
was
die.
like, "Pay the fine," and you said no. And they're like, "Well, we're convicting you of tax fraud," and then you get put to death.
Yikes.
Yeah. No, so I think I could live in that. I think I could live with that. I think I could live with that. I don't want to go into an anarchy world.
Yeah, I think it's probably better if everybody's on their P's and Q's. It's like a wild what is it? What was the thing in Singapore? Like dude got beat for spitting on the sidewalk.
Spit his gum out in the street.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Like yeah, so you know, I feel like the world would be a different place.
I don't advocate for either scenario. Anarchy is garbage, right? It's bad, and killing people for any crime is bad. I had to pick what life that I personally would thrive in. I'm not thinking about anyone but me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not thinking about anyone but me.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to
I
thrive in it,
I would
so
survive and thrive just fine in the dystopian death penalty world.
true.
Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't figure out a way in the anarchy world too. I've been studying Tina Turner's character in Thunderdome, and I think I can emulate her.
Who
Just make
runs
your own
Barter
corner.
Town?
Yeah, dude, you're just gonna make a barter town.
My dad's always saying that because my dad has like a apocalypse gardening manual, and he's like obsessed with that's like a side fantasy ham radios and stuff. And he's like watching that movie, and he's like, "Oh, you're that guy right there." And I'm like, "No, move your hand over one." He's like, "Oh, you know the guy with the mohawk." I was like, "No, go back one." He's like, "What?" It's like, "I'm Tina Turner, dog." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, man. She look at her chainmail. Look at that chainmail. Look at those earrings.
Yeah, she look good.
That's how I'm coming out." She did have great legs, Kara Quinn.
I saw her in concert when she was like 50 something, and she was getting it up there. I was like,
But wordy, a speeding ticket doesn't mean death. It's like a speeding ticket. Is like if you fail to do the things that they require of you, you get killed. Like if you go and they're like, okay, you have a speeding ticket, and you go to your pre-trial conference, and they're like, here's your here are your options, and you're like, I'm going to court. I'm going to trial on this instead of like pay us this fucking money. Like I asked them right out the gate, is this dystopian? Like I get executed in the street for shit or not? It's you live in the world as it is right now, where the only penalty for a guilty conviction is death. I feel like most of us talking right now, our life would not change very much. It would change a lot of people's lives as it's very predatory towards certain groups of people. But I'm not gonna willingly live in a fucking Mad Max world for anyone else. Like it's just about me now.
yeah, I think that's the way. There's nothing wrong with that. Nope, I'm here for it.
Well, meticulous chaos. I mean, full disclosure. In the worlds you're thinking of, I would pick anarchy. If I got pulled, if me getting pulled over speeding, and then the second the guy wrote the piece of paper to me, meant that now I'm dead. If that's the world, then this is a bad would you rather, because then I would never pick that world. You know what I mean? Like that's it's a no brainer. You're going anarchy all day, every day. Because every single one of us on this podcast would be dead multiple times.
Yeah, probably.
Judges only have one sentence. You've been found guilty.
The penalty is death.
The penalty is death. I'd imagine though you'd get a lot of skewed juries though. Imagine this world would be weird. Like it wouldn't be quite what you think. Like cops wouldn't be nearly as quick to fucking put someone away.
I mean, like it's such a hypothetical, right? So it's like if we were gonna say like America today, they were just like, well, we're throwing it all out. The only conviction sentence his death, it'd be pretty bad, as we all know, because like cops, not cool. Like judicial system, not cool. But this is a hypothetical. We're playing a game, so it's like cops as they're supposed to be, the judicial system as it's supposed
Yeah.
to be.
It's actually a more utopian world than what, because
I mean,
like
yeah, kind of in a way.
it is theoretical. They're all doing their job like correctly. Now, see, Kara Quinn's like, I'll go anarchy either way. I was like, no, I expect him to. I expect Kara Quinn to go anarchy either way. 100%. That doesn't. You seen these hands? I'm not cut out for anarchy, dog.
Mm-mm.
I got soft hands, dude. I read a sci-fi book that was like that, where like the death penalty was kind of the only conviction, just like you said, but it was also because the organ harvesting got so advanced in this planet that the rich upper the elite groups had infected the justice system so that they can kind of live forever.
Hmm.
So that like, you know, you just keep killing people for jaywalking and taking their organs, which led me to never being an organ donor. I read that book when I was like 17.
I think there was an episode of Next Generation is kind of like this too,
I think you're
where
right.
yeah, Wesley Carcher was like, I don't know,
Oh,
fell into a greenhouse or something.
my lady looked at my jars. I was just like, "You're not an organ donor? That's weird. Why?" And I was like,
That's weird.
let me hit you with this hypothetical. I got in a bad car accident. I'm laying there. 99% chance I'm going to die. And there's this like kid on the other operating table. Right? And they're like, he needs one of my organs. We're a perfect match, everything. You're going to tell me in some scenario, somewhere in some hospital, they stopped trying at the 99% chance to keep me alive to not save that kid. She's like, huh. I was like, I don't care about anyone but myself when it comes to being alive. Straight up. Like, when it comes to being not alive or being alive, I only care about myself. She's like, I'm gonna change mine now that you said that. I'm like, right?
Just something to think about.
That book
I
fucked
don't
me.
know.
That book fucked me up.
Just gotta put faith in things, I suppose.
That book fucked me up. All right, thank you, Wyatt. Thank you, Wyatt. Philosophical, would you rather? Kick it over to Rob. Let's talk news.
Did you say Rob's topless news?
I didn't, but from now on I will. You know, actually, I did, and I always have. Moving forward.
Nice.
Okay. That's what I thought. I was just checking. Just wanted to make sure. Oh man. Oh, where do we start? All right. So I guess the big topic of discussion around the old hobby 40K water coolers is the rumor engine image from this week, which seems to show a Biden. I guess it would be a Biden or a spear
Yeah.
that we've seen before. Nearly the exact same shape and configuration. Would you think, Wyatt?
It certainly is a spear.
Can't confirm is spear. So I think my theory at least is that it is part of the new Horus Heresy Primarch series that they're coming out with. There was a Horus Ascendant, Fulgrim, the Transfigured, I think they called it. And now we'll have like, I don't know, Alfarius Unchained or something like that. It does look like the Pale Spear of Alfarius. It could be a Dark Eldar Witch, I suppose. They have a similar weapons, but not quite as ornate. It's the styling is very similar to Alfarius's Pale Spear, and in the fact that all the lore and everything behind it, how it like supposedly predates to Eldar and might have a little Necron tech in it or so, the old ones and such. So I think it definitely, in that regard, resembles that. But there is a little bit of a curveball in the fact that the blades in a Black Library book were also in the current era Warhammer 40K, and also still with the Alpha Legion. So it could be that character that has it. I believe his name's Solomon. I forget how to pronounce the last name, but you could look it up and find all the history on it yourselves. And I mean, we know there's going to be a lot of chaos preview. They said that back at Nova Open preview. So we know that there's lots of chaos on the way. Games Workshop actually changed the SKU numbers of the combat patrols. From each one had like an individual SKU number inside of the SKU number ranges for each individual faction, and now they're all their own SKU numbers. So that was kind of interesting to see, and a couple of them are like super back order, and it's like kind of some of the factions that are rumored to be getting updates next year. So that's exciting. So some of those rumors might be panning out a lot sooner than later. But I think overall Warhammer is slowing down on the release cycle. Did you guys notice the one thing that everybody was excited for this year to buy and snatch up those battle forces? Did you notice how good they're doing on Games Workshop's website?
I heard the Tau one slaps.
Oh yeah, the Talon's great. If you're getting into Talon, definitely pick that one up. I mean, they're all decent value. They're all $10 more than they were last year, of course, which
But
GW raises prices.
but as you said, they did that weird yet again, a scandalous way to farm a pre-order list from store sign-up sheet, and a weird way to, or a, I guess, commonly practiced but shady as fuck way to mess with credit cards. So
yeah, there's still stores that are really upset about that because
So-
they haven't got their refund yet.
so the resolution is that you have to go to GW's website to buy them, as always has been the case for the last couple of years. Are they not
So,
moving?
They are not moving. As a matter of fact, the only 40K one that sold out was the Inner Circle Task Force, I believe it was called, which was the Dark Angels one, which I can see why. There was
Yep.
some stuff that hasn't been bundled yet. The two more sold out, but Age of Sigmar won. So it's pretty bad when you have Age of Sigmar selling out over Warhammer 40K, because you can make the argument that Sigmar probably isn't as popular as 40K,
Wow.
I suppose. So there's still 6 in stock with plenty to go.
Or
Apparently.
I mean, side point. At what
Okay.
point do you stop being able to sell the same models to us, and we just take this as an opportunity to get into the other thing we're interested in, or purchase gifts?
So I think that's what I wrote an editorial about this. Well, me and AI, of course, but uh I think there's a systemic problem right now with Games Workshop, and their old ways, their ways of doing things, where they treating game stores the way they do, treating customers as, in some regards, the way they do, that's just not going to fly anymore. We're spoiled. We're spoiled as
And
hobbyists.
also, it's a one-trick pony, right? Here's
Right.
here's a box with a value.
Right.
Buy the box. That ship has sailed, dude. That's old tech. We bought all the boxes, man. We don't need new boxes.
I think if people want the thing, and I said this last year, or maybe a year and a half ago, if I want the thing and I
already bought
allocate
it.
the money
I already
in
bought
my
the thing.
head, yeah, I'm getting the thing. I'm getting a thing, and it might not be the GW thing. But I mean, I talked to a lot of retailers today, and they all said, "Hey, if GW called me up and was like, 'Yo, you still want some of these battle forces?'" They're like, "I got them sold." Like, stores got like a 15-20% of what they pre-ordered. Like, stores had shit sold. I talked to one store today. He was like, "Yeah, I'm down like 15 grand this month because I didn't get the battle forces I thought I was gonna get." Like, that's just money.
So it also
for
shows
him
you
to
the
exist.
fanatical difference between the local scene and the online scene.
And I think people voted with their hobby dollars this weekend.
Respect. Going into these holidays, I respect the shit out of that.
there's just so much else. There's so much vying for our time, vying for our hobby dollars. There's so many games. There's so many
GW
miniatures.
used to be able to like rest on their laurels, being such a big dick bandit that
Mhm.
all they had to do was say, check out this overkill box. It's a $300 value for $200, and that was all they had to do, over and
Pennies
over
dropping.
all they had to do over and over again. And
Yep.
now with all these other options, like you guys mentioned, between Marvel, Shatterpoint, the new Halo game, all these bangers,
Yep.
like you're gonna have to do a little bit more than just say, here's a box that costs over $100 that is an additional $100 value that you made up. Like, you made that money up. Like, it's not real. That's fiction money. Like,
Well,
we're
yeah.
smart now. Like, we know better now.
Games Workshop money.
Yeah.
It's funny money.
Yeah.
And I think hobbyists are
But
becoming
the locals who go to the
yes.
go see, like, that's the thing, is like GW has to be careful about how they fucking treat the local game store, because their community, as we mentioned previous, that is completely
Mm,
propping their game system up, is the fucking local game store is the central hub
it
of
really
of
is.
all these organized players.
And and I think, I was talking with somebody about this over the weekend too, because we were reminiscing about the old Halo days, playing the new Halo game, the tabletop game is, I want to play video games, and I want to play it where, we all got to be in the same room playing together, because that was half the fun. Like, out of this online shit, like,
We want
people
to the magic
connect.
of this fucking hobby is the connection. The game store, like, owner operators, are where the action is,
Hmm.
not GW stores. GW knows that. It's just, they're gonna have to learn that lesson on a fucking profit P&L sheet before they make a change. And so far, they have not learned that lesson on the P&L sheet. But
I I think some lessons are getting learned this year. I think a lot of lessons got learned by Games Workshop this year, because you can't look at the events that have happened, all the events getting canceled, notwithstanding the act of God, all the events that got canceled, all the things that they have done, and the pivots they have made just in a short amount of time. They can't not be feeling some sort of pushback from, you can't be doing the things that you used to do because it doesn't work anymore. And I think this was the final tipping point for them to realize that it's not working. Like, us keeping all those battle forces allegedly to sell ourselves didn't do us any good, because now we're stuck with them. And here's the thing, and I want to touch on this, and I'm still doing I've got a lot more to say about it, believe you me. Hasbro is being sued again, right? This happens a lot. Hasbro is being sued right now for allegedly misleading their shareholders about their product stock levels, specifically
holy shit.
their overstock levels coming out of COVID, because there was a lot of Magic the Gathering cards, etc., that ended up in dumpsters, ended up in landfills at that time, because they literally could not get rid of this stuff. And as I've talked about, and I have
Dumpster Wars.
shown,
I knew this was coming back to Dumpster Wars.
it always comes back to dumpster wars, Kenny. As I've shown folks, Games Workshop did the same thing. And there's tips, and you can look it up right now. And I put it, this editorial's already written. I found more of the sellers that are so inundated with the product, with the excess product that they acquired, through the dumpster wars from Games Workshop, that not only are they selling like single boxes of, like, the Agastus, etc. No. That's not good enough anymore, y'all. They have so much of this stuff, they're selling cases of it. Cases. Like, multiples. Ash Waste, that Necromunda starter, they're selling multiple starter boxes together for the less. It's just ridiculous. Like, I think I saw 3 boxes of Ash Waste, 3 starter boxes. These things were 300 some dollars, I believe. $100 plus shipping for
For 3 boxes.
3. It's it's wild right now. These liquidators have been sitting on, and I tried to explain to them when the one big one came to me. He's like, "Yeah, we're just gonna sit on it," and I'm like, "This isn't Pokemon cards. This stuff. This actually becomes less valuable the longer you have it." And he did not understand. And I tried my darndest to explain to this guy how it worked. And he's just like, "Nah, man, I've got pallets of this stuff." And he showed me, like, he literally, we were in FaceTime in his warehouse. He was showing me the pallets of stuff he
You're
had,
like, I'm sorry for your loss.
like rolled
So-
up in a scooter, the little electric scooters, and out to where they all were through his warehouse system. I cannot make this stuff up. It was incredible to watch, but it's still out there. Like this shit's wild. So that might be another domino that falls on top of Games Workshop. We just don't know. We don't know because I don't know what they said, because I need to go back through all their financial reports for the last 3 years and dig up exactly what they did say in reference to these sort of
yeah,
things.
when you're comparing it to like what's going on with Hasbro.
Right. So, I can't be like, "Oh, hey, they did this, they did that," because we don't specifically know what they said in reference. They might not even addressed it, but we do know that it did happen because I have the pictures. They definitely had a lot of overstocks. We don't know what was supposed to happen with it. We don't even know what they told investors about it. Obviously, there's a bit of a snafu with the investors that we talked about before, because they wanted to give themselves raises, and over 20% of the people were like, "Absolutely not." And then all of a sudden, a mysterious stock dividend was given out, more than what happened with 10th edition 40K, which was by far their most successful product in the history of ever. So none of this adds up unless they're trying to quash a little shareholder revolt. But we'll see. We'll see what all happens next month when it all boils out, and we see the final numbers from this 6 months, because I don't know what's going to happen with all these battle forces. I don't know where they're going to go. I mean, you can look on their website and they still have bundle boxes galore for sale, from Mechanicum to stuff that's months old. It seems like the only thing that actually really did well, if you had to guess in the last 6 months, which of their bundle boxes did the best, what would you say? Just off the top of your head, knowing
Like
the
what
product
like what
release.
game system or like what specific
Well, like
box?
what specific release? Like, okay, so there was June, there was Sister Battle Force, Gene Stiller Call Battle Force, both of which were severely allocated. Not a lot of people got them. The Combat Patrols Pariah Nexus cards have been reprinted twice now that I know of. So
Cards?
the cards did pretty well for
Yeah, I would
sure.
say the cards.
Yeah, the cards cards definitely do well. Um, but I think they're into them pretty high because they get them made out of country and floated in, and they're all that. But then there was
All world?
they had dwarf. They did the dwarf and the chaos. Old No, dwarfs was from March. They did chaos. I don't think it did as well as they had hoped. Blood Angel Army Box.
Ooh, Blood Angels had to have done good.
Those sold out. Though you cannot find those. And there was a decent number of those available to stores. I think if I had to guess off the top of my head what was their most successful product in the last, and it wasn't Skaven Tide, it was probably the Blood Angel Army Box, which is cool because it had a bunch of new models in it and
So it
such.
also kind of shows you like don't just make random bullshit, guys. Make the good shit. They'll just
You know,
they'll just make nonsense and sell it to us.
well, I don't know. There's a lot out there still that's all shaken out. Kickstarter wise, once again, we're spoiled for products, spoiled for choice. Snot Goblins, was a modular terrain Kickstarter, basically Legos Part 2, is up right now. I think it ends on December 5th. currently at, I believe in excess of 600K. And they rolled out some new color choices as well for the terrain itself. So you can get all sorts of theme. It's already pre-painted, basically pre-printed, of course, but it's all the same. And there's a lot of cool different themes this time around. So if you missed out on the first one, or maybe you just want one of those pre-painted themes, you might want to check out the Kickstarter campaign right now, because there's definitely a lot of choices on there, and they got some new cool add-ons like doors and bulkhead closed and opens and things like that. So it looks pretty neat. I played around with some of the prototype stuff early on. I didn't have a whole lot of time to cover it video wise, but I was pretty impressed with it. You know, it takes a lot to get some, you know, injection molded stuff off the ground, and now I think they're going to that color configuration. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how it all shakes up, you know, once it's all said and done. But I'm sure it'd be a great project to back and such. We published the Black Friday early sales because a lot of people are running their sales already. So I was like, well, let's get a post out there for everybody already running a sale, you know, from game manufacturers to brands like hobby supplies and different things like that. There's a decent amount of stuff already on sale, and that will be on sale, you know, kind of through the holidays. And then our big post with all of the sales that have checked in, or we get newsletters for and things, will go up the day before Thanksgiving. I think that's the 27th, and then again on Black Friday, like early, so you can get, you know, any deal that goes live, or, you know, you're out of town doing the family stuff, you might not want to miss those ones there. That's generally a time to get the really good deals and stuff. And of course, you know, some people extend through Cyber Monday, but it's always good to have them all in one spot, because I found just me trying to keep up with everything myself, as maybe I want to buy something, I always had a hard time doing it. So, or finding all the stuff out there. So unless you're like, you know, getting all these emails and hitting all the social medias, it's very hard to keep track of it all. It takes us a while to get it together, but fortunately a lot of people email
Yeah,
us back.
your Black Friday list
Yeah,
post is always a banger.
it's very good. It's very good. It's definitely worth a look. So if you see that going on social medias, make sure to give it a whirl. And if you can think of somebody or something that we should cover, definitely email in, and we'll take a look at it, because I always like having new stuff to talk about. We didn't talk about this last week because, or maybe we did, I forget. The Army Painter is coming out with their first set of Signature Series Masterclass paints. Featuring the first set. There's actually going to be 2 sets, and this was all leaked, which is the only reason I can talk about it right now. By leaked, I mean they accidentally enabled a web page, and it was up for a while, and you could click through their email to get to it if you were in the States. So if you're in the States, you probably found it very easily.
So the
Either way,
embargo has been lifted.
yeah, if it's public, dog. I had to have that chat. But that being said, John Blanche is kicking off their Signature Series. So
That's cool.
that is very cool, because a lot of these colors, some of them are exclusive colors that they don't exist in the Fnatic range. There's going to be Fnatic paint, also the washes and things. What I like about it, there's going to be a different gold in there. I don't know if I'll use it, but it is something that I could use for the Custodes. Um, but the cool thing is that it'll give you the palette to do kind of like the John Blanche style of what would you call that, Kenny? I mean, it's technically it's the
Scrimdark.
Scribdar.
Grimdark.
Oh, Grimdark. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the Grimdark style, but I mean, as a
Blanchitsu.
artistic, yeah, the Blanche issue. But what's the classical? I mean, it's like what's the painting without the lines? What's the
Well,
technical term for it?
I mean, it's like scale modeling.
Yeah.
It's like scale painting
Okay.
in 40K, but with an overemphasis on grit and grime,
I see.
right? And so he does deploy a lot of contrast, a lot of dark lines, a lot of bright lines. um, through a good use of like color theory to generate his grime. So it's like it's really enlightened in that capacity. But a lot of people have onboarded his style poorly in our
Mm,
hobby and started relying on like bottled effects and
mm,
basically get really low contrast garbage. And that's really not what he was doing. You know,
I
he was
see.
so he's using like a very like clever color palette and without using any like gimmicks, any bottled techniques. He's just these are the colors of my weathering palette as applied heavily and aggressively in this capacity as an artist. Like he's a true artist. Like his stuff
Hmm.
is amazing. And so I think it would be really cool for anyone who's a fan of that style without knowing exactly what he was doing to get these colors because it's going to be preloaded with like the way he created his color palette. You know, it's low saturation, it's desaturation. You know, it's got very specific hues for his grime and his weathering, and
Mm,
it's deployed well, like with expertise.
hmm.
But
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a cool
I'm
style.
actually it's one of the only things I'm that's the only thing I'm interested in right now is from a signature series. I'm like actually I'd like to see what he curates.
Yeah, the so I think each set was let me go look. I think each set was 13 colors, but it also included some technicals and some um washes from the Fnatic line.
Mm-hmm.
And he had two painted Space Marine miniatures that he had painted in the style with these colors on that page, but of course it's been taken down. I didn't get a picture. I didn't get a screen cap of them. Um, honestly, I thought it was up for sale, so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then wait a minute, this wasn't supposed to be out. Okay, uh, so I didn't get pictures of them,
That's actually I
unfortunately.
mean that's actually exciting. That's thank you for reporting on that. I definitely encourage anyone to take a look at if anyone who's curious about weathering palettes. This will probably solve a lot of your problems.
Mm-hmm. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, it looks like there's 10 colors in each one. Volume 1 and a volume 2. I do like the names. They have like basically Earth kind of names like Fiery Vermilion, Sunburst Ochre, stuff like that. Like sounds like it's coming from the Earth,
Already
so to
two
speak.
colors that I always have on my weathering palette. Like that's
Vermilion and Ochre.
like,
Turquoise, heavy metal. Where's that?
I hope he comes out with a tutorial on how to use them too. That'd be really cool for people.
So I'm not sure. So this one's 6 acrylic colors, one wash, one metallic, one effect, one speed paint in the set. The other one is same deal, 2 washes, one metallic, one speed paint, and six colors. There's a paint called the Darkness, Kenny.
Tight.
The Darkness.
I'm in.
Uh so that'll be something worth checking out here very soon from the Army Painter. And I guess we should talk about LVO tickets once more. Long War Doubles is up on Frontline Gaming's website. We'll put some links around for those. So if you think about going to the Long War Doubles there in the
It's
middle of January.
Sunday event. LVO.
Hmm.
Wyatt and I will be there running the Sunday event. Get signed up. Longward doubles. You got a playmat opportunity. The new 2025. So hope to see you guys there. It's going to be an exciting event. All right.
And
Conclusion of news. So let's take a quick commercial break. Listen to some of our sponsors. And then we'll come back and talk about this FAQ. And we're back. Wyatt, you have a lot of friends going to Worlds. I'm sure you've got your finger on the pulse of what some of your XPZ homies are complaining about slash excited about. Like, because
mm,
there's always gonna be a little bit of both.
Oh yeah, dude. Like the event FAQ is definitely a big deal. There's been a lot of talk about the pod system. It's going to be there, and like everybody was like, "Oh, what pod am I in? Who am I fighting in my pod?" And then like I think it was um Stat Check like put out these like odds on the
Nice.
various because it's like it's based on Elo, so it's
Yeah,
like
that
it's different.
slaps.
Oh, yeah.
Usually, whatever information they have to put out something. I love that.
Right. And so like people were talking about that. And so it's got this weird thing where like the player with the highest elo is playing Votan, this guy from Germany.
Huh.
And so they're like, technically, Votan has the highest quote unquote chance to win WCW. I don't know if that's the case. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, everybody's like, oh, my pod is like kind of soft. Or like, oh, fuck, I got like all heavy hitters in my pod. What is this? You know?
That's I love it.
Hmm.
I love that. I love looking at the brackets and being like, "Oh, Goku Vegeta round one." Shit.
I'm sure it was all random though.
It wasn't.
No?
Mm-mm.
Huh.
They did not publish exactly how they made them, but they said that it
That's
was
silly.
based on spreading out the elo, spreading out the people from different countries, stuff like that, right? And so,
Hmm.
like, I definitely not saying there's like collusion or anything, because from what we could tell, most of the pods seem pretty fair. It's just some people were like, oh, well, like I got put in this like shark pod, while my buddy got put in this pod that's like way softer, you know.
Shark pod.
And it's kind of feels bad because of the, as we've talked about, like what we think of as like not very tight of a system, pod system. It's going to be at Worlds. It's not your average like open tournament, right? And so
Hmm.
it can kind of feel bad because like in a normal tournament, you have the chance to still win the tournament, even if you drop a game, sometimes even two games, right? Depending on how many rounds are played or like what the various metrics for placing are and stuff like that. And so it's like, well, there's also an argument that it's like, if you can't beat that person on day one, could you beat them on day six? So that's an argument. But it does kind of feel weird because it's like, the only way that you could ever possibly win the tournament is you have to hit these like kind of preposterous standards, which is like you have to win all four of your placement, your seed rounds, whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
And it's not just about winning those, you have to like crush those games. You have to score really high.
What?
And so, well, I mean, that's how the pod system works. So it's like at the GW events, you have the seed rounds, which is the first four rounds. And then after that, you're put into a different pod, and then that's where you go on to play your games for final placements.
Mhm.
And then there's one pod that's like the people in this pod have a chance to win the tournament
Yeah, you have the
because it's
champion
the
pod, the
right.
winners
Oh,
pod.
okay, yeah.
So like if you have like three pods of all undefeated people, well, the champion pod is the undefeated people with the highest battle score.
Yeah,
Period. So like you got to win your
Mm.
games, and you got to crush them.
right. And so there's like, well, I could probably win my four games, but I don't know if I'm going to be hitting hundos for all four of them, right? Because there's a lot of factions where it's like you can go undefeated, but you're scoring like 60, 70s, 80s for most of those games.
Yep. So it's definitely harder than normal. So we got
Hmm.
so as always is the nature of a bracket system or pod system like this, where you get put into a win path on a certain day. Some people are gonna have an easier path in their opinion than other people in their opinion, right? But let's
Mm.
not get it twisted. Everyone had to get a ticket to get to this thing. So
Yeah. And I mean, it's an event where like not everybody there had to win a tournament to get
no.
a golden ticket.
So the
Right.
nature of acquisition of
Oh.
ticket is not equal, and not
Right.
everyone had to do the same
Hmm.
sequence. Like you can even just use, for example, uh, the champ cups winners, right? All five guys got a ticket, right? That's
For California
for
teams.
California
Yes.
teams. That's a completely different way to get a ticket than winning a 100-man GT solo, right? So there's multiple ways to get tickets. The quality of the tickets are all different. The acquisition of the tickets. So, it's not, it's while it's technically an invitational with a, like a competition metric to enter it. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's definitely the most ambitious one yet. It's definitely the
Oh, for
most,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
it's
I think
definitely,
like it has a level of prestige that no other tournament has, purely because you have to have a ticket. You have to win the chance to go to it. Um, and so like it does have that pomp and circumstance. However, like I personally feel if it's going to be the world championships of Warhammer, it needs to be a standard tournament structure.
yeah. Hopefully
Mm.
they make that acknowledgement moving forward, because I like the idea, because, people have tried this in the past, but I mean, like, you could go to like a local store and win a ticket at a
Yeah,
50-minute RT. So saying like it has to be a GT by these standards, I like the idea of moving forward that they standardize it to an
right.
exact structure.
And so like if ELO, however you want to say it, is going to be the like kind of like the king of the metrics moving forward, like the new paradigm in competitive 40K is ELO. If any event should use ELO the way that it's meant to be used, it should be the World Championships of Warhammer, where like you have like the highest concentration of high ELO players in a single event because they had to earn their place to get there. It's the one place they should be like, all right, we're doing seeded rounds by ELO the way it's supposed to be used to determine who is truly the world champion of Warhammer, who's the best player, right? But they're not doing that. And so it's just kind of like hard for me personally to respect it on that type of like level where it's like, yes, it's a high level competitive event, it has prestige, but because of the way they're doing the format, it just seems like kind of a like it doesn't seem the way it should be.
Yep.
I, hmm. Yeah, it almost kind of brings that whole like thing full circle about there's so many variables. Like, how do you, right? Like how, like there's so many variables when you play 40K.
Well,
Unless you standardize it, now you're getting into a whole nother can of
you got to
worms.
standardize it by organization, by
Mhm.
event,
Hmm.
by ELO. Right? We don't have. No, we're as close to standardization as we've ever been, and we're still
Sure.
super far. So we can't fault somebody for trying to take that first step, that first ambitious step forward. There's problems with it, no doubt, but going into this event, people at Cali Cup are all talking. We're all quoting the WCW FAQs. Are we using this? Are we using it? Or we're not using it, right? Because a lot of the players at Cali Cup are going to are going to Worlds, and there's a lot of stuff that like, no, we're not playing that this weekend. That's for Worlds. That's where the FAQ is. So with
Hmm.
like, you get to talk to like some of these top players all the time. Why, like, in your game club. What are people like Spato saying like about the FAQs going in? Like how like what is he excited about? What's Ganyo? Is he how disappointed he is about Aquilons, right? I mean, like things like that.
I mean, I don't think Ganyo is upset at all given his performance, but yeah. So one of the biggest like kind of rapid changes to happen between the like uh release of the Aquilons, the rapid increase in the meta of guard, and like this event is they did step in. They were like, "Oops, let's fix that." So uh, are they Tempestus Aquilons is what they're called. Um,
Yes.
so you cannot use their datasheet ability when they rapid ingress,
Hmm.
right? And for people who might not know what I'm talking about, the new jump pack drop troopers for the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, the Aquilons, their datasheet abilities, they can 3-inch deep strike, just natively. And so what was happening was all of a sudden an army that had a good, even kind like all around set of rules, the Astra Militarum, like they're not really bad, but they're not really S tier great, you know. But because of their points costs, their super deep unit roster, they can play the mission quite well. and then they get Aqualons, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, yo, fuck all this battle line stuff. Like, fuck Scions. I'm not taking those. I'm not taking Casterkin. I take one battle line. I'm like, I'm spending, the 3 units of Aqualons, like 90, 90, 90. That's in every single list, no matter what, because you can do so much with a unit like that can 3-inch deep strike. And it was kind of like feels bad because people were like, oh, well, all of a sudden you can just like rapid ingress 3 inches away from a unit that's about to set up a charge move and, stop their charge move, which did happen many times at Cali Cup. It was like, well, yep, they did the thing, right? If you're generating CP the way that Guard can, you can do crazy things like they drop down 3 inches away in that player's movement phase, right? And then their other datasheet ability is when they drop down, there's like a sentry turret they have that can shoot out of sequence. Like it drops down and it automatically shoots, right? And there is like a wacky thing that could happen where they drop down, shoot, then they get overwatched. That unit could die. You spend 2 CP on reinforcements, and then like the exact same unit just comes right back down, does it again, and they're still there. Like you couldn't stop it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If you overwatch them in the reinforcement step, and GSC have ability to do that too. They can do that too.
Yeah, and it's like the unit itself is not super offensively powerful, right? Like they have like the flame turret, which is, like a basic bitch heavy flamer. And then they have like 2 special weapons in the squad and like a pistol weapon, right? But the combo is that you come down, shoot out a sequence, throw a grenade, because they said, well, the homebrew FAQ from the WTC was that you could grenade because that shooting out a sequence doesn't count as shooting that turn, which a lot of people were like, that's fucking dumb, but is what it is. And so they would shoot out a sequence, throw a grenade, then shoot regular, all for like this 190-point unit, 3-inch deep striking away, right? And against some armies, it's not that tight. They just aren't. Like if you are playing Space Marines, their weapons, like only 2 of them can really hurt you. And then you have infiltrators, the unit called infiltrators that have teleport scramblers. So you can't 3-inch deep strike. You can't even 9-inch deep strike. You have to be outside of 12. So that can block out a huge section of the board. Other armies have access to that, right? Like almost every Tau army that I've seen in the past year has, I think his name's like Dark Strider, like the one little dude who has scramblers and he sits in the backfield. You can never come in behind me, But some armies, it hurts real bad, especially like toughness 3 armies. A unit like Scions, or the Aqualines coming down 3 inches away and hitting them with the hotshot las guns and all that. Yeah, it'll pick them up. It's nasty.
So big change. They can't do 3-inch deep strike off a rapid ingress going into worlds. Let's see how that affects this epidemic, this plague of Aquilons.
Yep.
Give us some more.
Let's see. Let's go through them. So
The stuff, the updates are in red. I think there was just 3 total. That was one of them.
yeah, so we've got the Astra Militarum, Blood Angels, Death Company Dreadnought. Let's see. So
Wasn't that the thing where you could just like he rage out and get in engagement range?
Yeah, I mean,
So I'll just
other
read
units have that.
So it's called
It's cool, though.
Driven by Fury, is the Death Company Dreadnought. It's in your opponent shooting phase. Each time an enemy unit has shot, if this model was hit, you make a Driven
Runs
by
at 'em.
Fury move. Yeah, it's like a Blood Surge move. And they changed it to where it does allow them to move within engagement range. That's what the red change is.
So they got a true blood surge move when they didn't when it was so it wasn't true before. Because now they can actually close the distance and get an engagement range.
Just like surprise.
So yeah, that's tight.
Yeah. What's the other one here? So Dark Angels, Watcher in the Dark. Once per battle, you use your Watcher in the Dark token. Just after a mortal wound is associated to an Adeptus Astartes model in this unit, can summon the Watcher in the Dark at a 4-up. Feel no pain. Was there some kind of weird keyword issue with that or something? Like,
I think you had to declare it when you were targeted instead of waiting to see if you needed it.
Okay, so maybe that helped it out a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's way better. Like
Yeah.
for the Dark Angels player.
And this is something that we never really talked about because there was like a small change to Death Guard. This was like, I think like over a month ago. They kind of went under the radar, but with their infection thing, their mechanic where they infect objectives.
Oh yeah.
So before there was like the infection mechanic, and then there's the ability that multiple factions have, which is to make a unit stay under your or an objective
Sticky.
stay under your control even if you leave. Right, sticky objectives is what we call it. So they changed the Death Guard infection thing to where it stays infected. Like once you infect it, it's infected like forever. It never stops. Like you can't undo it, right? Because it used to be where if you left the objective and an enemy unit went and claimed that objective, then it stopped. Whereas now it's there all the time.
All right.
Actually, kind of a big deal for
Yeah.
Death Guard.
Yeah, for Death Guard.
I mean, like that, like I said, that's been what 2-3 months maybe since that's come out, but like it wasn't brought to my attention until about a month ago when I was really doing a deep dive on Death Guard rules.
Mm.
And
So
I
you
was like, oh, we
so
never
wait,
talked
the
about
the
that.
changes you can undo it, or the changes you cannot undo it.
So it says when setting up, or that's Gene Stealer quote. The question is, if I have infected an objective marker, what happens if my opponent gains control of that objective marker, then loses it? That objective marker is still infected, but does not come under your control again. If you regain control of that objective marker, i.e., because your level of control over that objective marker is greater than your opponent's at the end of a phase, while you control that objective marker, because it's infected, it has the Nurgle's Gift ability.
Hmm.
Because before it would be like if you lost control of the object, it would stop being infected. Whereas now it's infected all the time.
So you can still lose control of it, but you never lose the infection.
Yeah. Which is a big deal because of, Death Guard
You know,
mechanics.
yeah.
And then last week we were talking about like Alex winning Cali Cup with Gene Stealer Colts.
Mm.
And since I'm not a faction expert on GSC, I was like, well, people just say they're cheap. But I talked to him about it, and the biggest change is how Cult Ambush changed, right? So before it had, like the blips and all that kind of stuff, right? Um, and like you could move a unit to like next to a blip, and it would make the blip go away, which would like stop the mechanic, all that kind of stuff. Whereas now you just put those units in reserve. So if a unit dies and comes back because of the Cult Ambush dice roll, it's just in reserves. And then that actually works now with a lot of the detachment abilities having to do with coming out of Cult Ambush, coming out of reserves, which is why certain things like Aberrants are so scary now, because it's like, well, I can, like, if they come back from Cold Ambush, they're making like a 6 on a 9-inch charge coming out of Deep
Yeah.
Strike.
Now they get the keyword.
Rar.
So that all got changed going into this, and it hasn't had enough time to be so OP that they peeled any of this back.
Right.
So GSC looking really strong going into this because all these new strong mechanics are only now getting revealed. So they're gonna have potentially their best chance to win right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think Alex is going to end up doing really well
Yeah.
at Worlds with his GSC.
Yeah, GSC is on the rise right now.
We see this every so many years, right? Like,
Yeah. So we got some changes, things that players are gonna have to interact with across multiple factions going in. Let's end this podcast on this prediction because we're not gonna be streaming next week.
True.
What faction do you predict is gonna take it home? What? I'm not even asking you what player. I'm asking you what faction.
Oh.
I think my money is on. I'll do like a parlay. So I'm gonna say Imperial Guard has a good chance. I think G Stealer Colt has a good chance. And I mean, like, kind of a maybe a little bit of a hot take, but maybe not, is like an army like Blood Angels. You
Mhm.
know,
I was
like
gonna say, I was literally gonna say those same three.
sometimes at these tournaments, like even something like, so Blood Angels may not be like the top of the meta pile, but sometimes at tournaments you can just like fucking run through opponents with Blood Angels, and then you're like, all right, now I have to actually turn it on and play really, really smart for these final 3 rounds or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. Say AdMech.
It's a wild prediction. You have anything to back that?
Gluten-free gut.
That's the solid.
Hasn't
So,
let me down
I
yet.
mean,
uh,
it's not,
Except
he's
when it
not
lets me
totally
down.
off base. Like AdMech is one of those not attachment. It's one of those armies where like they may not be really good in the meta, but like a really good pilot.
Yes.
Like that army has some extremely annoying mechanics to deal with. And it can sometimes be like, yo, what the fuck? I thought this army was bad. And like all of a sudden you're on the back foot.
Dude, just their basic like stats are
mhm.
and benefits to army wide are solid, and they've been doing better and better consistently. I think folks are getting better at running them, and if you put that many dragoons together, you deserve to win a couple of games straight up.
Right,
Those
that
models, oof.
I'm gonna go with GSC after watching like 22 hours of footage at Cali Cup, dissected it all with my co-host Chris Wallace. I think
Yeah.
in the right hands, I think with the right skill, like a skilled pilot right now, like I think GSC is unbeatable if piloted. I think it's unbeatable. I think it doesn't have a bad matchup. I think like this is what I mean by like unbeatable. I think it has answers for literally everything in this game. In the right configuration. If you have the right list, that's thought out that way, like Spathos list. Um, and you are versed in the other big factions. It actually has answers for everything. I think it's got the DPS, it's got the staying power, it's got the board control. So I would say I predict GSC, and
Those are all.
but also guard, like Wyatt said, because guard still slap.
Yeah, I mean, like they're
Guard.
just so solid. I don't think they're nearly as strong without the ability to completely stop you touching them.
Mhm.
Um,
But even the rapid egress change is that's a good change, and
Right.
that would have messed up a couple of instances of Aquilon that I've seen I saw over the course of those 22 hours. But it wouldn't have necessarily uprooted their entire game plan, especially going in knowing they can't do that, right? So it is a nerf, and it is a good change. I don't know if it's
Yeah, I
enough.
think it's highly dependent on matchup.
Yeah, I don't know if it's enough. Yeah, because there's some
Because the
because
Aquilons go from being like something that can actually be like a little scalpel unit
Mhm.
to basically just like something that scores points,
something that
depending
scores
on,
exactly.
right. And then like you take away their ability to 3-inch rapid ingress, and then like all of a sudden, like certain matchups are kind of bad for them, right? So it's like if we take, I don't know, this is anecdotal,
But as Kara
but
Quinn says, like guard with 200 bodies and tanks still slap. So like they don't
yeah, I mean it's still like a solid faction.
they can slap without the Aquilon doing
It
what they
just
do.
feels fair,
Uh-huh.
right? You're like, okay, I have to respect this army, but it's
Mhm.
a fair army. Like my game into guard at Cali Cup, it was like, bro, if he couldn't 3-inch rapid ingress to stop me from touching him, that game's over
It
at
went
turn
because
3.
that made it unfair. Like
Yeah,
that made it unfair, right? So like exactly, everyone has a cheat code, and it's about balancing those cheat codes so that we all have similar cheats. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a little too extreme. But yeah,
Well, I think guard has very similar advantages similar to Gene Stokewell, not exactly the same. I mean, they have solid melee units. I mean, even the Ongren getting increased in
yeah.
points are still solid. They have drop in stuff. They have tanks. They
they
have the
both
bring back the
They
squad.
play a similar
the
type of game.
yeah they have their
Yes,
DPS is put in different parts of their army,
right.
but they do play very similar. That's a good
Hmm.
assessment.
So they're similar.
So yeah,
One might have more
but
arms than the other.
but thing is GSC catches people off guard because people don't know what it does. That's why I get
It's always been the case.
always
Like,
been the case.
every edition, like what?
It-
Wait, what are they? What are the blips?
it-
Yeah, I mean,
What?
it's yeah, you're right. It's like they have this weird roller coaster where they're just like dog shit, dog shit, dog shit. Everybody forgets about them. They get like one thing that makes them OP as fuck, and everybody's like, "What the fuck is?"
And then the
going on
four
there?"
guys who never stop playing GSC show
Yeah.
up and just win everything, right? Like it's like get fucked. So I feel like they have the meta edge right now. You know, so anyway, we're gonna be off the air next week, as we said. Hopefully everyone enjoys their holidays and their time with their family, and this time to, you know, ponder what they're thankful for. I'm thankful for you guys and being in Florida. So
Heck yeah, dude.
thankful for Wyatt making his move.
It's all about
Me too, dude.
it's all about being happy and some self-care. You're worth it, Wyatt.
Yeah, hell yeah, he is, man. But yeah, let's fucking shut it down. Wyatt, why don't you take us out of here, man?
Rob,
I'm glad I have job security that AI hasn't taken from me yet.
always.
So that's it for this one. Make sure to head on over to thelongwar.net for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today and buy tickets for Long War doubles at LVO.